Okay, I think it's time to continue our debate. I think implicitly the presentation you've heard was trying to use words which I relate to total quality management. And I think similarly to what I said earlier on, leadership is equated with success. I would also say that total quality management is about leadership. So leadership can be born out of total quality management. Equally well, good leadership can instigate a total quality management culture. So the issue is, are we here talking about the chicken and egg situation? What should come first? And I can give you several case studies about organizations that have started off without really leadership, without passionate leadership, but through sheer hard work and the demonstration of the values that quality can give them, leadership was born. Enlightenment was born. I mean, look at Deming, for example. In the 50s, in the early 50s, in America, leaders didn't want to know about quality. I mean, Duran and Deming had to go to Japan because they were so frustrated that a simple concept, a powerful concept that could help corporate America was not really embraced. And when they went to Japan, because leadership was already there, Japan basically benefited tremendously from the principles of quality. So, yes, we can talk about this as a chicken and egg situation, but I think the two are interdependent. And I think, it is in our interest basically to look at what quality can do that can help leadership and vice versa. What is the role of leadership in modern business environment in creating a quality culture? We've already talked about different styles of leadership, and I don't want to say much more about it, except that leadership is about those traits, those attributes basically, that enthuse, that motivate, that excite, that create passion within people, and that can help the organization achieve its short, medium and long-term objectives. So it's like the captain of a ship. You rely on them to steer you to safety. You trust them because they have unique skills and abilities to do so. The creative leader, on the other hand, gets the best out of people, releases the human energy, and that creates for the organization and for the customer. The synergy through team building is another characteristic that we appreciate in good leadership. Rationality, again, it's about being objective, being factual, making sound decisions, weighing the facts, looking at options, and making safe decisions without risking the organization. Sometimes it's about taking risk, but you don't risk the organization. The risk is calculated. The laissez-faire leader, as we said earlier on, it's really about non-interference. It's about getting the organization to manage itself and observing and being curious about the human interfaces and the way people want to organize themselves. The conservative leader perhaps is a style that we wouldn't like to see in the 21st century, because it is a safe style. It's a nitty-gritty style. It's about being pedantic, and it's about really, if you like, looking at a half bottle like this one and saying, my God, the bottle is half empty, as opposed to another style where, you say, oh, no worry, you see, I've still got plenty of water here, the bottle is half full. So, I think in the 21st century, probably that style will give problems. Humanistic leadership is about people, basically. It's leaders who are passionate about people. They listen to them, they listen to their views, and really it's about engaging, mentoring, guiding, and everything else. Tolerant leader, is a leader who can solve problems. No crisis is difficult. No problem is impossible. If you like, no problem is due to employees. We're here to fix things. We're here to mend things. We're here to give people a second chance, kind of thing. That's what the tolerance style. And it is a very important style, because empowerment is about tolerance as well. Because when you empower people, they have to feel safe. They have to feel that in case they make a mistake, if you like, there are no penalties, because that's how you unleash creativity. It's by saying that we tolerate mistakes. I mean, 3M has succeeded because of that. You're accountable for your successes, but also you learn from your own mistakes. You document the failures. Failure is a blip, but success is really about the long term, and that's what's more important than that for any organization. Just a couple of statements, and again, the description of leadership for an organization is entirely different, but these are organizations that have demonstrated effective leadership, and I just compiled them just to show you what are the key words. Ames Rubber Corporation, an American organization that has won the Baldrige, and they're saying that leadership is the ability to direct people towards a certain goal, and this is the only way we believe to lead. It's by example. Quadrant, which used to be a subsidiary of the post office catering division, they say leaders must challenge the culture change that produces excellence. Remember what we said about being firm, sometimes being ruthless, sometimes about being decisive. Is when you see tumors within the organization, you say it's about time we did something about it, because you're correcting the wrong, you're not destroying the good. And as long as you do that, you have every chance to change the culture of the organization. Royal Mail by saying, but the role of leadership is to achieve the mission and the values, to make sure that we breathe and basically we speak, we communicate our values on an everyday basis, but also we're all focused on delivering the key objectives of the organization. Just some more styles for you to look at. Ulster Carpet Mills in Northern Ireland has won the British Quality Award, and to them they are saying that the key to involvement and enthusiasm for continuous improvement is the high degree of commitment by the management team. In other words, it's about unleashing the potential by involving people. That's how they believe leadership is for them. Armstrong, Baldrige winner in America, is saying business excellence cannot be achieved without the active and personal leadership of the management team. Management must take charge and lead the organization to new levels of performance. And I agree totally with that. It's correlated, it's verified, it's validated. Please show me any organization that can be successful without strong leadership, and I will be amazed, I will be astonished, because I don't think you will be able to do that. So, it's about transformation, isn't it? I mean, all the words we heard tonight from Abi and perhaps from my presentation are about adaptation. They're about responsiveness. They're about flexibility. I talked about strategic agility. All of these newly coined words have a meaningfulness to them. In the old days, autocracy was right. This is how I believe we should do things. It's about demarcation lines, and it's about hiding, if you like, true feelings and inabilities and incompetencies. It's about control, being control freaks. It's about being rigid. It's about bureaucracy. It's about, if you like, stifling energy and creativity, because people serve a purpose, but people are not the purpose of the organization. And it's about creating winners and losers. It's about silos. It's about mentalities of them and us. And it's about rigid control. Now, tell me, in any organization, in any cultural context, why should we believe any longer in this style of leadership? Particularly now we talk about knowledge-based economy, and we talk about intellectual capital, and we talk about people as the key asset. How can this style help us? I mean, it is not going to do that. Perhaps there is a new borne style, which is about managing change, agility. I'm not sure about loving change. Nobody likes change because it's painful. But it's about knowing how to manage it, which is an important thing. It's about seeing the big picture, isn't it? we're not in silos anymore. We're part of a value chain. We know who the customer is. We touch and feel the customer through our endeavors, our products, our services, our creativity and everything else. And it is about, if you like, this catalysm of creating leadership that breeds leadership. And it's about recognition, appreciation, respect for people, self-esteem, stretch goals and expectations, empowerment and support. It's about continuous learning, isn't it? Lifelong apprenticeship. But also it's about ethics, honesty, transparency, and owning up to mistakes. Mistakes are tolerated. It's about communication and listening. It's about, if you like, teaching people, mentoring them, coaching them, so they too can become good leaders. They acquire those leadership skills. It's about getting rid of a culture that blames people. And it's about results, monitoring on a regular basis, achieving. Everything we said tonight is on that line. This is the new style. But every statement that you've got there is about people. There's nothing about technology there. Technology is an enabler. There's nothing about IT, there's nothing about finance, because those are enablers. But the asset are people. So if we twist and turn the organization to start to create those kind of scenarios, then we have nothing to worry about because we are winning. So analyzing hundreds of organizations basically has helped us arrive at some conclusions. What have these people got in common? One of them is leadership through example, walking the talk. You see these leaders at platforms. Their speeches are published within the company. They rally the troops and preach a message. They visit the customer. They're not afraid to face hostile shareholders and tell them, sorry, this year you're not getting your dividend because I, the captain, am wanting to build a better future. And it's about the insistence on your vision remaining intact, but also the preservation of the organizational integrity and the commitment of achieving those long-term results. Those are good leaders. They don't try to please some and sacrifice the very many. They are passionate about the job and they stay in the job until they achieve. And good leaders, very often, we found through our research, they have the tendency to stick around. They stay on average 10 years, 12 years within their organizations, as opposed to, if you like, those who act as leaders and they're looking for the executive promotion ladders and the big fat bonuses, and after 18 months, they jump over and go to another organization and make the same mistakes because you can never catch them. You cannot blame them because long term, that's what Jack Welch said, long term is what demonstrates good leadership because it works, it's safe, it's intact. So I think those kind of habits and lessons were learned. It's about not fearing change. Change is driven passionately because we want to progress. Progress and advancement is really at the heart of any organization, including this university. If we don't build a future for ourselves, we will be dead. Okay? So future means you embrace change. That's as simple as that. The vision has to be compelling, hasn't it? I mean, I have looked at hundreds of mission statements, vision statements, and tried to do some clever stuff by breaking them down into the constituent elements and everything else. And some of them are so boring. They're really looking at the ground. 12 months, we want to increase our profitability by 10%. Wow. This is a mission statement. So I think the excitement means that, as Jack Welch said, balancing the short term, but not neglecting the long term, and that's the art of good management, that's the art of good leadership. And leading people to the goal, alignment, congruence, communication, telepathy, saying to people, live my dream, follow me, and you'll get there, and we all get there. And the synergy levels is critical. All leaders who have been excellent They were good at building good teams around them. They believe in team spirit and team effectiveness. And here's this word again, empower. Empower people is, as I said, it's not delegation of responsibility, but it's giving people the full ownership of the authority to make decisions. That's what empowerment is about. They engage the organization, they commit the resources, they give their pledges to the customer, and they act because they want to do the right things, not things right. So the leaders who says, I like you and I'll give you an A for your appraisal as long as you do things right in my own way, those are not leaders, because they are interested in the slogan, don't rock the boat, and as long as you don't rock the boat, you're a good boy, and you're going to get your A appraisal. We don't want that. So it's about doing the right things. Facilitate achievement means enabling people, isn't it? Technology, systems, procedures, training, development, personal development plans, exposure to best practice, etc., 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 etc. So I facilitate an environment for you to achieve the results, because if everybody achieves their own results, then the organization achieves its results. Here's an interesting scenario for you to look at. Wainwright is a small to medium-sized enterprise in America, and they have won the Baldrige. And I like their model, very, very simple model. And look at this. Start with a vision. What is their vision? Total customer satisfaction. What are the key objectives? To ensure consistent profitability. Small to medium-sized enterprise needs cash flow, so the lifeblood. But how do I achieve consistent profitability? By ensuring that I have well-documented, optimized processes, by using Six Sigma quality, which is borrowed from General Electric. Six Sigma quality means waste is not tolerated, okay? Cost is a tumor, let's get rid of it. And the last thing, which is hard thing, is, as they call it, associate job security. Because if you are profitable as a business, you don't want to lose your people, and therefore you can offer them permanent jobs. But as long as the business does well, then job security is guaranteed. But look, they put it as an objective, which means we will do everything possible to make sure that all of our employees will not lose their jobs. And then let's work on it, let's make it happen. The mission is to pursue perfection. Now remember, in America, vision and mission are different from here. Really, the vision is the mission, as we understand it, because you must deliver the mission. And the vision is the dream. So their dream is to pursue perfection. Okay? Always to improve, to move to new orbits. And the strategy is how we're going to deliver those objectives. Standardization means create consistency. That's what ISO 9000, for example, is supposed to do. To help the organization use one standard, consistency across the board, and optimize its resources and capabilities. To use design for manufacturability. In other words, to create seamlessness, to work on time to market, to work on speed. Because if you design new products that you can produce right first time, then you have zero defect, and then you have high quality as far as the customer is concerned. So don't design separately from your ability to produce, because that creates crisis, creates costs, creates delays, creates frustration. Customer is let down, the organization has failed. So DFM, design for manufacturability, ensures that it does that. And these produce, I think, printed circuit boards for, if you like, original equipment manufacturers anyway. Managing assembly because of the nature of their business. Strategic sourcing and certification. Upstream, you need to manage your suppliers. If your suppliers are certified, they produce right first time quality, then they have given you a big boost because you manage quality downstream. If you don't manage your suppliers, you'll spend half of the time going back to them, rectifying quality, and again, you're letting your customer die. So input, output, right input gives the right output. Managing suppliers effectively means managing the customer to their satisfaction. We talked about values, and values are precious things, aren't they? I mean, they are unique things to, if you like, individual organizations. So in this case, they believe in continuous improvement, and they do so through involving everybody. They believe in working in partnership with their customers and their suppliers. They believe in the community that they serve, so they have a strong ethos on public responsibility. They believe in value added for the customer, customer-driven quality. And they believe in stewardship and leadership. So stewardship is leadership. And if you put it as a value, what you're saying is that we want it to catch on. We want it to be exhibited at different levels within the organization. A supervisor is a leader, a head of section is a leader, head of department is a leader. So that's what stewardship is. Everybody makes decisions at the right level. That's the true meaning of empowerment in management. Enabling strategies, what is the trick, if you like? What are the winning formulas that enable an organization like WeRide to achieve its mission? Lead the duck means, benchmark, shoot ahead of the duck, extrapolate performance, because the market is moving fast. So you need to read and anticipate what's going to happen in 18 months, 2 years' time, whatever. Mission control center means emphasis on performance, on measurement. It means having reviews, monitoring, reporting, and action planning. Synchronous organization means, make sure that change is not disruptive. You have an organization that, if you like, is reflected by a value chain perspective, and then you're optimizing all the time by not losing sight of the present, but building an organization that can adapt to the future. And competitive comparison and networking is about alliances, it's about best practice, and it's making sure that you know your competitors and you understand the game very well. Mortgage Express, funny enough, is, and again I picked this because Mortgage Express in 1992 were going to close down. And the last speaker, by the way, was the guy who rescued Mortgage Express, and Keith Greenough is coming back to us on the 29th of June as the CEO of Bradford and Bingley, and he will tell you these stories. 1992 they were going to close down. By 1994-95 they won the British Quality Award. They were transformed into an organization which was so exciting, and they were so successful that they were sold off. Because it was very tempting, but nonetheless, it's when you have an organization which is at the risk of extinction, what you need is a vision that inspires people, that distracts them from the negative and excites them with the positive. They did it by creating what they call challenge the process. It means, look, we're no good here. We're going to close down. So feel free, change what you want to change, suggest what you want to suggest. We all can do this together. So challenging status quo was a revolution as far as they're concerned. Enabling others to act, which means, look, we're all surviving here. There is no raft, you see. We all have to learn how to swim by kicking our legs. So let's all do it together. Just simulate what happened then. And this is how they created this vision. Model the process means, look at doing the right things now. If we want to survive, we have to be seen to be doing the right things. Maybe in the past we didn't focus on the customer. Now we have to focus on the customer. Maybe we didn't want to learn from our mistakes. Now here's a chance for us to learn from our mistakes. Maybe before we didn't want to learn new ideas from outside. Here's our chance to do so. So model the process. Encourage the heart is difficult, isn't it? when people are threatened with job losses and everything else, how can you lift their spirit, and how can you really get get them buzzing and get them passionate about that? But it is a job of a leader, to motivate people when things are down. So, told you a lot about different styles, about critical factors and everything else. Maybe what we should explore now is some of the tools and some of the techniques that can be used for effective leadership. Here's a process which was very successful. You may have come across the 360-degree upward appraisal, yeah? Or bottom-up review, or peer performance review, whatever it is. I mean, there's loads of jargon used to this. So how do you evaluate leadership? Okay, you need a process, and here's a tool that Royal Mail have used. They bring their leaders together and they facilitate a workshop using some performers about their own performance. So here's a chance for the leadership team to evaluate their own performance and reflect on their achievements. They do it as individuals, and then the peer group, they're asked basically to evaluate their colleagues' performance. This is tough. You can only do it if people don't feel threatened and if people believe in that feedback, positive feedback. So you facilitate the workshop to teach them how to use the tool. You start the assessment process, first of all, by getting individual leaders to evaluate their performance, and then you get the peer groups to put their input on the performance of the individuals. All of that data is analyzed. Each individual leader discreetly are given a feedback on their performance, where they need to improve. Then there is a peer group, if you like, workshop, similar to the leadership assessment team. And each leader then will say to his subordinates, I take the message on board. These are my objectives for next year. That's what I'm going to do to improve as a leader. Fantastic. And they agree, the plan for improvement. And the process is reactivated every 6 months just to see how far you're progressing. Because it's positive feedback. This is not linked to pay or anything. It's non-threatening. It's not going to affect your bonuses and everything. It's an opportunity for getting feedback from, if you like, subordinates, and feedback from the peer group, same group. So, in terms of developing leadership, I strongly believe that positive feedback can develop strong leadership. I mean, after all, we expect leaders, to do the appraisal for everybody else, and and basically, what is the best way of appraising leaders? I mean, I believe that the best way is through that, it is a serious process. You have to have objectives, and you have to review them on a regular basis. And you can actually look back and look at the evolution and development of leadership within an organization. So when you have an organization employing 100,000 people or 50,000 people, whatever, you need something like this, to steer the effectiveness of your leadership team. So I think, to me, that is the growth of leadership. And it's depicted in this slide by saying that as leaders grow and the organization does better, the requirements in the style of leadership are going to change ultimately. So, for example, if you are in survival mode, this is really about bottom line, it's about cost, it's about not losing the customer. You want a style that is down to earth, looking at quality issues, cost issues, looking at structure and basically, numbers, people's numbers, directs versus indirects, and so on. And it's about mobilizing the energies, the resources that the organization has to help steer the organization. But Some organizations are doing very well. Yours might be one of them. You might say, well, our turnover is 26 million pounds a year. Our net profit is 2.5 million. You know, we have grown by whatever percentage consistently over the 5 years or whatever. You are in a mindset which is not really worried about survival. You are in a mindset that says, you know, consistency and growth. Okay, so maybe the approach is about prevention. So how do you build prevention? You integrate quality ethos in everyday working. You maybe go for ISO 9000. You make sure that the procedures are well written and subscribed to, so that cost is always kept low. And you emphasize on problem solving mentality, so that people use their skills and expertise levels to deal with problems. And you're in a comfortable position because your organization is doing okay. It's not doing perfect, it's doing okay. Then you have a third scenario, which is about growth, desire, improvement, and so on. This is about now saying, we need to get rid of this routine. We need to re-engineer. We need to challenge the methods that we use for managing at the moment. We need to really place emphasis on measurement so that we can benchmark ourselves, so that we can put stretch goals. And we need to rock the boat. This time round, we want to solve real problems. If the real problem is about the structure of the organization, let's not be afraid. Let's break it down and rebuild the right structure that will serve us in the future. So what I'm trying to say to you is, through these three scenarios, is that the leadership style is linked to a particular instance, isn't it? When things are not going very well, you're on the ground with the troops, because it's about survival. When things are in order, okay, and there is no crisis looming around, you're in the office, okay? When things are perfect, you need to get on the helicopter and look at it from the top and do something unusual, change the setup, change the method, change the technology, whatever. So different styles for different reasons, but they're all leadership styles. Again, I'm sharing with you some tools and methods tonight. Corning have a very good model for what they call their leadership system. And tomorrow, if you leave Bradford and you go as consultants, and an organization says to you, can you come and help us build our leadership system? Don't panic, guys, because here is one. You will work with them to develop their vision and then their mission statement. You're all conversant with strategy. You'll help them identify, their strategy, and you use the Ansoff, and you use the BCG, and you use Porter, and you do your pests and pestles and SWOTs and what have you, basically to help them arrive at some scenarios and to choose one particular scenario that suits them and start to drive the business. Then what else do? You put some critical factors of success, because the mission statement has to be measurable, hasn't it? So it has to have some goals and objectives. And then you develop some key performance indicators. And then you put maybe a balanced scorecard to review the key results areas or indicators. Then you convert these key performance indicators into some actions and some plans linked to resources, etc. So you use a planning process. Then you use a communication cascade at various levels. So you deploy the strategy, you deploy the plans. Strategy has meaningfulness to it at various levels. The plans are saying high-level key performance indicators, need high-level strategic plans. Tactical level, tactical plans. Operational levels, initiatives, projects, yeah? Do you see the relevance? So you cascade the business down. Then you've got the performance reviews and you close the loop. So to me, this is a visioning process or envisioning process, and it is about how. It's not about what. Okay? I think so far we have addressed the what, but this is all about how do I do it. Every box that you see there, you know, particularly the purple boxes, they are reflecting some competence from your part. You need to facilitate workshops and you need to use some particular tools to guide them through it. But it's a beautiful picture because this is really what the leadership system is about. And this is what they say. I mean, they have won the Baldrige Award because they say, we are strategy driven. I can believe that because you've seen the previous slide. We are customer focused because the way they have defined their vision and mission, just about the customer. We manage our business through processes because they are linking the desires and the objectives and everything else to critical core processes which are about rendering value to the customer. So what and how going hand in hand. We continuously improve our processes, hence the Baldrige Award, and hence the title that they so deserve, which is a total quality organization. And we audit our organization using criteria of excellence, which are the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Criteria. And we emphasize our values on people, the process, mentality, and technology. So now, down one level, what should you have in a strategy? Or what is a quality strategy? I mean, quality strategy is the business strategy. No less than that, I'm sorry to say. You know, quality strategy is not about, few initiatives here, a cost improvement project here, few quality circles here and there, and if we have time, we will do a little bit more. I'm sorry to say that in my language, the quality strategy is the customer strategy. If you believe in the customer, then you will define your strategy from those terms. It's about value, it's about speed, it's about innovation, and it's about cost effectiveness, because if you manage cost effectiveness internally, you give more value to the customer. Okay, so that's what a quality strategy is. So please don't think that I am telling you, get your business strategy first and then develop your quality strategy second. I'm not saying that at all. So to get to that, these are, if you like, the key things that will support it. I mean, first of all, it's about instigating teamwork. It's about management behaviors and actions, which means that the appraisal, the reviews, the performance, and everything else are reflecting that results orientation is really what the organization is about. It's about regular communication, transparency, communication. It's about achievements, targets, achievement, benchmarks, and it's about rewards and recognition. To do all of this, I would say it's about people development, because who's going to deliver value to the customer? It's not the computer, it's not the piece of technology, it's the creativity of the individuals who touch and feel the customer at various stages of the value chain. So provided you have defined your quality strategy with all of these inputs, then you have nothing to worry about. And I'm really critical of the way we teach strategy at the moment, because we teach it, if you like, as a piece of paper, as a document. And then we will say, how can we now, having had the strategy, how can we now link people to it? How can we communicate it to the business now? How can we go away and look at the measurements that we have so we can track it down? So you cannot really develop strategy separately from what the business is capable of doing. You have to build the business and then see what strategic options you have available to you. But you do not build the strategy. Yeah.
It's the people that make the strategy.
It is the people. Strategy is a bit of fuel, isn't it? It's just saying, I've put in some unleaded, I'm going to go 40 miles from A to B. That's what a strategy does. But you know, what's going to carry on moving you forward is your vehicle, is the maintenance of the vehicle, is your ability to drive it and everything else. So we need to build the organization and then look at strategic options. Yeah, but we cannot do it in reverse. I mean, I'm against that. I don't think, in modern times, you can actually manage business that way. And very often, you see, how do we build strategies? We take the top management team on, away from the organization, somewhere nice and warm, in a resort. We lock them in for a week, and we come out with a strategy. And guess what? They don't even have the information, which is so vital as input for looking at the options and looking at the scenarios and doing that. How can you develop a 5-year strategy of a business without having the information that you need, without really looking at the key elements which I've just described? So we must go back, and this is what the Baldrige model and the European quality model, for example, do. They scan the business first, and then out of that scanning and that evaluation and assessment comes strategic options for improvement, because that's the robustness of the business that you need to do. I'm just going to skip a couple of slides. This is really what leaders in some organizations do. I think you can see the emphasis on external representation. Leaders have to promote the organization, so they have to be members of professional bodies, they link to universities, they write articles and books, etc. They speak at conferences, they organize visits for customers and suppliers and others. They are passionate about the community cause, etc., etc. Now, these two slides I'm going to share with you now, again, really capturing everything we talked about today. Look at the Koenig model, and look at this checklist, basically, which is based on best practice evaluation. The starting point is always, where do you want to go? So it's about the clarity of the vision and mission and goals. It's about communicating the vision to the people and looking at strategic options available. It's about embracing change, and change is a necessity nowadays. It's about engagement and involvement, and it's about this empowerment in the decision-making process. It's about understanding your weaknesses and the strengths. You can only fly, if you like, with the power that you have. So if you're a light aircraft, you want to do a transatlantic flight, you're going to struggle. But if you are supersonic and you are Concorde, it's 3 hours. So the capability has to be assessed against the journey, the vision, where you want to go, and you have to accept that. If you have weaknesses, the journey is going to be bumpy. If you have lots of resources, you are very able, and you have optimized your process and everything else, then the journey, of course, is going to be very smooth. But also it's about knowing the strengths and the weaknesses of others. This is a characteristic of good leadership. They speak with good knowledge about their competitors. They know their movements. They know their commitment to investing in technology. They have a vague idea, but maybe a good enough one, about how they embrace change, how they handle their customers, how they try to outsmart them. That knowledge, that intelligence is absolutely critical for making decisions, or rational decisions. So if a leader is oblivious to external environment, particularly the competitive arena, how can they steer an organization to safety? A pilot, before he takes off, sits there for 2 hours looking at the weather patterns, trying to plan the route, and by the time they take off, they tell you, don't they? If you go on a long haul flight, they say to you, the journey today is going to be smooth, or we can expect some turbulence on the way. When we get to X place, because they have studied the environment extremely well. So I think this is a characteristic of leadership that we must place emphasis on. Again, I mean, look at these words. They're coming to you, I'm sorry for the nth time, but after today, I think you will understand by heart what leadership is about. Developing and practicing people management skills. You know, I am fascinated by the American leaders. They're all fantastic at communication skills. You know, and they emphasize the strength of getting to people, motivating people, relating to people, and everything else. And I worked with some of them, and I observed many others. I mean, like Jack Welch, you see, 2 years before he retired, this journalist asked him, he said, "Mr. Welch, you must be looking forward to your retirement. You must be playing a lot of golf nowadays." And he says, "I'm working harder than ever before because I want to find my successor." And he feels that the task of grooming his successor during 2 years may not be enough, because it's passing all the skills and all the knowledge and everything else, and making sure you're leaving something that you cherished for over 40 years in safe hands. So that's really what we mean by people management skills. Role modeling is, walking the talk, selling the product, selling the brand, speaking highly of your organization, being humble to say, well, some things are not right, but we are committed to improvement. Being positive energy generates positive commitment. As simple as that. If people detect that there is uncertainty in your mind, or caution, or hesitancy, what do you expect? If the pilot, when we go through turbulence, comes on the tannoy, and he says something which shows he's not sure, can you imagine what's going to happen? I personally will not be, relaxed. So I think it is about those things. And it's about, regeneration, it's about freshness, it's about education, re-education, training, development, knowledge, new knowledge, etc. Tapping into people's expertise, Maybe we're only reaching 20% of the potential that people have. Let's get more out of them. Let's engage them more. And exploiting, enabling technologies, exploiting the internet, for example. The internet is a threat to nobody. The internet is an opportunity. So good leaders will recognize that. And understanding where you operate, where you sell your products. Looking at cultural diversities, looking at the global consumer and customer, how they respond to your products, not insulting them, etc., etc. So you must be sensitive to all those things and those external energies that leaders require. And I talked already about cultural diversity and business practices in different countries. So to sum up today, really, you've seen a broad perspective on best practice in leadership. You've had the chance to basically learn a little bit more about what are the key critical factors of effective leadership. I have shown you some processes which show a structured way of building effective leadership. We had a very good speaker who showed us that leadership is generic enough to apply to any context, and Abi's perspective was in relation to sports, but I'm sure you have appreciated that in the context of what he was talking about. And I have finished off by reinforcing some of those messages by telling you, in a generic fashion, basically, what you should pay attention to. And as usual, I always finish with giving you a tool. We don't have the chance to use this. This tool is very useful. It's really for you to audit an organization on the strength of its leadership. Those statements that you see, 11 of them, are all built on some of the best practices in the world. Okay? All of them. So if tomorrow you become a consultant, and you want to do a first audit. So we want to audit your leadership before we help you and build your competence. We want to evaluate your leadership. So there is two things, first of all. One is what I call the degree of importance. Ideally, by the way, they all should be ticked as 5s, yeah? Because they're all important. But it's for you to profile the culture of the organization. Yeah? So you get them to rate each of those attributes on a scale of 1 to 5. And the second thing that you can do is to get them to evaluate the effectiveness of those attributes on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay? Are they good at it? Are they average? Are they below average? Or are they excellent? Now, each of those attributes could take potentially an hour to discuss. Because what you want to gather is the evidence. I mean, for example, let's take the first one. All senior leaders are personally involved in performance improvement. Or, look at the word, all senior leaders are personally involved in performance improvement. They can have a little debate and say, yeah, not bad, we're 8. Okay, where is the evidence? How does it happen? Explain it. You know, and through your facilitation skills, you can flip chart what they are saying and everything else, and then arrive at a consensus score. And believe me, they will find it very tough to score more than 7. If they're excellent, maybe 6. And then you work them down one by one. Then what you do, you start with the right-hand side, you aggregate the scores. As it happens here, it's easy because 10 times 11 is 110. So a perfect organization will give itself 10, 10, 10, 10, 11 times. Okay? That's 110 maximum. So you're trying to identify the actual score. So what do? You divide and multiply by 100. Yeah? And you identify the gap. So for example, you might find that it's 57 out of 110. 57 out of 110. So I don't know what the percentage is going to be. You calculate the percentage. What do you do with this afterwards? Two things. One is look at the criticality, the importance that they have rated. And as I said, the perfect thing should be 5s, but they never do. Those that they have scored low, look at the effectiveness. Those they've scored at high importance, look at the score. So to develop an action plan for improvement, you want to focus on the vital few, i.e. the areas that you have ranked as high importance, but they have scored low. It's vital to me, but I'm not good at it. Right? So therefore, I need an improvement plan. And guess what? You can even put an improvement with target. You can say, in 9 months' time, we want our score to move from 57 to 65, for the sake of argument. So when you conduct the workshop again, you try to see what are the remedies that they've put in place, which pushes them a little bit more towards being, if you like, a model organization. It's a simple template, it's 1 page, but it will take you a whole day to facilitate. Okay?
So if you wanted to say gain that improvement in 9 months, would you constantly periodically review that, or would you do it in the 9 months?
No, you will use performance basically to say, these are the actions we decided to do. These are the key performance indicators. These are the deliverables. This is whom, this is by when, and this is where it is now. Green light, amber light, red light, whatever. So on a regular basis, you're reporting on the progress you're making against that. So you can embellish a document like this, with more sophistication. I mean, I'm sure you can use your own creativity for doing that. So you review it regularly. What you do after 9 months is reassess the whole thing. Because believe me, people move, new people come in, people become complacent, big changes in the organization. You might think that this tool, because you have applied it once, that's it, it's no good to apply it a second time. Wrong. This tool is a tool that you can use all the time, because the challenge, the meaning of the attribute changes as well. What you say in 1980 as person involved in performance improvement is different from an E-based environment, isn't it? So, you have raised the tempo a little bit. I've used these and I highly recommend them. Please give us a little acknowledgement at the bottom. They have been very, very powerful. I facilitate a whole day with a senior management team just using that one sheet.
But this is assuming that they are embracing the fact that leadership is an important area to improve on in the first place.
No, not necessarily, you see, because when you go there as a consultant, you're working with a top management team and they're saying, maybe they're saying we want to really look at best practice in the way we direct our business, or we want to do a major strategic review and we want you to help us. Maybe you can say to them, well, before you actually look at the micro side, have you looked at the big picture about your leadership system? Because some elements there about data. Look at number 8, for example. Senior leaders base their decisions on reliable data and facts pertaining to customers, blah, blah, blah. And here I am telling you that in reality, senior leaders are taken to a remote resort for a week without any data, and they come out with strategies for the next 5 years. So here's a way of challenging that behavior. So you don't need to know that they are willing to improve their leadership, because the purpose is to improve the senior management model. Yeah, and the mindset within that. You can take them after that. You can take some specific, like we're not good at strategic planning because we don't really spend enough time gathering the right information, reliable data, and everything else. That becomes a huge project in its own right. That could be a 9 months project, as I was saying, one of the vital few areas.
But you have to get them to agree that leadership is an issue that needs to be put under scrutiny. It's asking someone to bare their soul, really, isn't it? It's asking leaders to... But
you're evaluating the top management process. You're not really, it's non-threatening this, because it's not saying you're a bunch of whatever. This is actually saying how you steer and navigate the organization at various levels. So ideally, you use this during an opportunity of a strategic review, maybe facilitating an away, this away day, away, whatever it is. Hit them with something like this, and they will appreciate it for life. You don't go to them and say, I can do this for you. You don't do that. This is for you to use out of your bag. Once they say to you, come and help us facilitate our away, day or whatever, then you pull it out.
Yes, it's the way, it's your approach.
Yeah, never. Let me give you some advice. Never go there with a tool.
Yeah.
You go there and say, I'm an expert, right? What do you want some help with? And if they say this, you pull it out.
Even if it gets them to start talking amongst themselves.
Very powerful.
Then
absolutely.
That in itself is good.
Yeah. It's so powerful, simple but lethal. Because it is built on best practice. This is built on excellence.
Couldn't you get one of these templates for each and every subject?
I have indeed. But they cost money. Any questions? You see, we're building you to be leaders, not just theory, practice. So when you go, you actually fiddle and temper and change and do the wonderful things in organization. And by the way, this is generic. You might say to me, well, Mohammed, this is okay, but it applies to manufacturing. And you can go, you can go to a hospital, to a school. You can work with a school. I'm doing a lot of work in schools at the moment. Anywhere. There is evidence of adopting changes to improve leadership effectiveness. there is evidence. Look at those words. You know, punish him. Where is this evidence? Show it. It's not about opinions. It becomes about facts, and then you can see the cold sweat coming out, you know, out of these individuals. You're measuring the words and the intensity of those words.
It's like poetry for business students.
It is. It is. I know. Yeah.
If you take this on a management retreat, what is the problem with that?
What is the problem with that?
If you are using this
Yes.
on the traditional management carrying away somewhere.
With this, no. There is no problem with that. I am in favor of management retreats. I am just saying that we're not exploiting the full potential of what leaders can do. What I'm saying is that they make decisions on maybe poor data or incomplete data or not seeing the big picture. That's my criticism about the away days, but I am all in favor. And this is perfect for away days, you know, away weeks, whatever you want to name it. Because every one of those can breed 4 or 5 initiatives, actions, who is going to do what, who is going to lead what resources should be allocated, and you know, it's wonderful.